2/3 Lotus is live. I'm back. I'm alive. The webcam is working. And it is time to read Bukowski. After I get this paperclip on. Okay. The day I kicked a bankroll out the window. So, my normal process for any sort of reading poetry is to start with just reading it sort of without trying to do any analysis. And that would be just going in, reading it, finding the pacing, what feels like it sticks out to me, but not marking the page in any way, shape, or form. And then, from there going back, reading another time, and then ideally, maybe marking a couple things down, finding some more to say, a couple things to just underline, find what sticks out to me, right? Usually do that in like my purple pen. I just say like, okay, what sticks out to me on face value, and then I go in only after that, like on a third read, to say, what things do I like? What things are bringing up questions? What things maybe strike me as odd or unlikable? That sort of thing. So, that's the process, and that's what we're gonna do. Hopefully my voice is okay. I've been sick. As anyone who is around on this channel knows, I've not streamed for a few days, so hopefully we do a little better. Or we do okay, I mean to say. Get OBS to stop being annoying. Okay, cool. The day I kicked a bankroll out the window. As I said, you can take your rich aunts and uncles and grandfathers and fathers and all their lousy oil and their 7 lakes and their wild turkey and buffalo and the whole state of Texas, meaning your crow blasts and your Saturday night boardwalks and your 2-bit library and your crooked councilmen and your pansy artists. You can take all these, and your weekly newspaper, and your famous tornadoes, and your filthy floods, and all your yowling cats, and your subscription to Life, and shove them, baby, shove them. I can handle a pick and axe again, I think, and I can pick up $25 for a 4-rounder, maybe. Sure, I'm 38, but a little dye can pinch the gray out of my hair, and I can still write a poem, sometimes. Don't forget that. And even if they don't pay off, it's better than waiting for death and oil, and shooting wild turkey, and waiting for the world to begin. All right, Mom, she said. Get out. What? I said. Get out. You've thrown your last tantrum. I'm tired of your damn tantrums. And you're always acting like a character in an O'Neill play. But I'm different, baby. I can help it. You're different, all right. God, how different. Don't slam the door when you leave. But baby, I love your money. Okay, there's a lot there. This is cool. I'm a fan of this poem. I am a fan of this poem. And I'm going to read it again. It's always good to have a second read, just because the first one you just kind of get to know what's going on, right? Then I'll read it again, just for like that enjoyment. And I really enjoyed reading that poem. I was laughing. Any art that makes you laugh, smile, cry, remember that art and hold on to it, because it's a good thing. It's a good thing when art can make you do that. The day I kicked a bankroll out the window, and I said, you can take your rich aunts and uncles and grandfathers and fathers and all their lousy oil and their 7 lakes and their wild turkey and buffalo and the whole state of Texas, meaning your crow blasts and your Saturday night boardwalks and your 2-bit library and your crooked councilmen and your pansy artists. You can take all these, and your weekly newspaper and your famous tornadoes and your filthy floods and your yowling cats and your subscription to life, and shove them, baby. Shove them. I can handle a pick and axe again, I think. And I can pick up $25 for a 4-rounder, maybe. Sure, I'm 38, but a little dye can pinch the gray out of my hair. And I can still write a poem, sometimes. But don't forget that. And even if they don't pay off, it's better than waiting for death and oil and shooting wild turkey and waiting for the world to begin. All right, Bum, she said, get out. What? I said. Get out. You've thrown your last tantrum. I'm tired of your damn tantrums. You're always acting like a character in an O'Neill play. But I'm different, baby. I can't help it. You're different, all right. God, how different. Don't slam the door when you leave. But baby, I love your money. I'm a Bukowski fan. He keeps getting better, I think, as I read this book. Which is what you want, right? You know, it would kind of be a shame if the first poem in the poetry collection was the best, and then it went down from there. But, like, nah. It really feels like I just keep learning about Bukowski as I read and finding new things to enjoy. So I'm psyched to, like, dig into this. So now I'll take my purple pen and just kind of underline, bracket, point arrows at things of interest. Not necessarily things I like, try not to judge, but just things that catch my eye for any reason. Things that give pause to my reading. Things that make me feel something. But again, trying not to assign value yet. Just saying what this poem makes me feel. The day I kicked a bankroll out the window. And, I said, you can take your rich aunts and uncles and grandfathers and fathers and all their lousy oil and their 7 lakes and their wild turkey and buffalo and the whole state of Texas. Meaning your crow blasts and your Saturday night boardwalks and your 2-bit library and your crooked councilmen and your pansy artists. You can take all these, and your weekly newspaper and your famous tornadoes and your filthy floods and all your yowling cats and your subscription to life. And shove them, baby. Shove them. I can handle a pick and axe again, I think. And I can pick up $25 for a 4-rounder. Maybe. Sure, I'm 38, but a little dye can pinch the gray out of my hair. And I can still write a poem, sometimes. Don't forget that. And even if they don't pay off, it's better than waiting for death and oil and shooting wild turkey and waiting for the world to begin. All right, Bum, she said. Get out. What? I said. Get out. You've thrown your last tantrum. I'm tired of your damn tantrums. You're always acting like a character in an O'Neill play. But I'm different, baby. I can't help it. You're different, all right? God, how different. Don't slam the door when you leave. But baby, I love your money. Baby No Money. That is this poem. Honestly, that's what this poem should be called. If we wanted to rename it, Baby No Money. Dusk, you're back. And as you can see, I got my webcam working. And I appreciate your prior comments. Again, glad you're here. This poem's excellent. I am a big fan. Big fan. And my paperclip came off. Okay. There's like, there's like not that much here, it feels like, but there's always a lot here with Bukowski, the more I dig into it, and that's why you spend time with the poem. But basically, Bukowski doing his normal, like, hookup energy, with a rich lady who probably likes that he's a sad poet, and he's telling her about his poems that don't make money, and she kicks him out because she's tired of his artistic nonsense and his idealistic dislike of her wealth. And he just loves her money. This is great. Bukowski's comedic at a certain point in his... He is so blatantly this, like, caricature, and he probably plays it up in his poems, right? But he is like the caricature of a poet who's like tortured and starving, right? If I had to describe Bukowski, it's like he's playing a role. And I mean, it actually says here, you're always acting like a character out of an O'Neill play. I don't know who O'Neill is, but right, that's how it feels. He writes these poems about other artists who drove themselves to madness, and he himself writes about these like wild like affairs and hookups and loving people for their money and being a poor poet and drinking. Like, I don't know, it's really funny. It's great. So that being said, dig further into it. The day I kicked a bankroll out the window. Things I like. And I said, you can take your rich aunts and uncles and grandfathers and fathers and all their... Oh, yawn. Sorry. Try again. And I said, you can take your rich aunts and uncles and grandfathers and fathers and all their lousy oil and their 7 lakes and their wild turkey and buffalo and the whole state of Texas. Meaning your crow blasts and your Saturday night boardwalks and your 2-bit library. And your crooked councilmen, and your pansy artists. You can take all these, and your weekly newspaper, and your famous tornadoes, and your filthy floods, and your yowling cats, and your subscription to life, and shove them, baby. Shove them. I can handle a pickaxe again, I think. I can pick up $25 for a 4-rounder. Maybe. Sure, I'm 38, but a little dye can pinch the gray out of my hair. And I can still write a poem sometimes. Don't forget that. And even if they don't pay off, it's better than waiting for death and oil, and shooting wild turkeys and waiting for the world to begin. All right, bum, she said. Get out. What? I said. Get out. You've thrown your last tantrum. I'm tired of your damn tantrums. You're always acting like a character in an O'Neill play. But I'm different, baby. I can't help it. You're different, all right. God, how different. Don't slam the door on the way out. Don't slam the door when you leave. But baby, I love your money. But baby, I love your money. It's like, I like how it can be like, I love your money. Not like I love you. I love your money. Jeez. So one thing I underlined or circled was all of these parentheticals, that being parentheses, right? I'm a big fan of parentheses. I think they're really cool. And in this case, like, these add an excellent little commentary to the poem to show that, I mean, he does have like a little bit of doubt in his sort of way of life. Which is understandable. He has no money. But like, I mean I think the parentheses tell me that these thoughts are really what he's thinking. These are honest. And I can still write a poem sometimes. Don't forget that. Because the parentheses are kind of like an honest internal commentary from Bukowski the person, maybe, rather than Bukowski the poet. Or maybe Bukowski the poet rather than Bukowski the author of this specific poem. And I don't often feel a lot of honesty coming from Bukowski. Like, he really shows himself to be this unreliable narrator at times. If we look at some of the other poems that we've read, he, for example, in, let's see, As the Sparrow, right? That poem, he essentially describes himself as unreliable and someone who should not be trusted. And also, the way it's written sort of, in many of the poems, invites the reader to criticize the person talking, regardless of the subject they're talking about, and question them. This feels a lot more honest, strangely, and I think a lot of that comes from the parentheticals giving this sense of maybe commentary, and this idea, this honest dialogue. Obviously, we like to say any poet including dialogue is very rarely like the actual factual dialogue from their life, just because real life dialogue is not this poetic. I mean, in a sense, the whole thing is dialogue. And I said, right, he said this, and he said all of this, and then the parentheses also indicate, like, thought versus what he's actually saying. Trying to get this to focus. Okay. What he's actually saying, I can do this. I can still write a poem. And then he's got this thought in his head that's like, well, sometimes I think, maybe. Right. And then we get to her response, which is just, get out. Which I think is so fitting. I feel like if you really want to shut down a poet, like if you have a poet, okay, here's my advice to the world. Advice coming in. Let's say, hypothetically, you have a poet over at your place, you know, you're having a good time, and then something happens, and you no longer want this person in your house, right? How do you kick out a poet? Don't try to, like, mince your words. Don't try to talk. Don't try to be elegant or eloquent in your speech. Just, like, get out. Because the poet will be like, but I'm different. I can't help it. Like, I love your money. And, it's like the perfect way, you know, to just shut down a poet is like, be straight, simple words. They won't know what to do. That's what I think. It's your daily advice. So, that being said, this is a really excellent, so when she just says, get out, right? Like, I think, you know, and then his only response is what? Because he says, like, they're in an argument, right? And I said, all of this to her, like, I'm done with your rich lifestyle. I'm done with your nonsense. I'm done with your parents who own 7 lakes. I'm done with you, like, having a subscription to a magazine, because that's, like, probably he's thinking that's not artistically very valid. That's a waste of money. You should be buying independent poets or something. Pansy artists, right? Telling about how he can be this better person. All these words. But also, he gives himself, like, this feeling of superiority. Like, sure, I'm sort of in squalor writing poetry, but at least I'm not waiting for the world to begin. Because, again, she's this, like, rich parents, you know, waiting for death and oil. I presume, or I would like to think that death here is referring to, like, inheritance. At which point the world begins. Because then she has access to all of her generational wealth and such. Which is cool. Just a little closer. Ooh, that looks way better. And so then she just kicks him out, and all he can say is, what? What do you mean? And I like the tantrum line. I think it's really funny. Just be like, you've thrown your last tantrum. He's done this before. She's tired of it. She's tired of his over idealization of things, hating the rich, being this poet, right? And he's here for the money. This definitely aligns with a lot of his other poetry that we've read, as to say that talking about his sort of poverty in relation to others, his disdain for, like, the normal rat race, and his appreciation for the artistic, you know, caricature poet lifestyle that he lives. Things I'm wondering about. So let's do things that I'm less of a fan of from a poetic or literary or thematic perspective. And I always struggle to criticize Bukowski because he's a really good author. And I said, you can take your rich aunts and uncles. Okay, so one thing I'll say. This poem isn't very, like, easy to speak, perform. I think that's okay. I don't think Bukowski was ever really I don't know his relationship with the spoken word aspect of poetry and that part of the art, but a lot of his poems feel very to be read off the page with one's eyes and not necessarily spoken, because a lot of times there's repetition, there's just all this stuff that is not the most exciting to read or to listen to have read to you. It's very, very well presented. It looks cool to have and this is this is like just a torrent of things. That's what I would call it, a torrent of words where he's just saying this and this and this and this, and that makes sense for the argument. And maybe I should read it more like that, where he's just tired of this person, fed up, you can take all this and shove them, right? That's what he says. And I said, Nico, I am feeling better. I'm like, I guess like 95%, you know. We're here, we're reading Bukowski. This poem is hilarious. This is the day I kicked a bankroll out the window. And I'm having a grand old time. Bukowski's a silly guy, and I'm really enjoying this poem. More Bukowski, more Bukowski, more Bukowski. Yes. So let me read this for you. I'm going to try to read it like I think Bukowski would have said it, because this whole poem's a conversation. And I said, you can take your rich aunts and uncles and grandfathers and fathers and all their lousy oil and their 7 lakes and their wild turkey and buffalo and the whole damn state of Texas. Meaning your crow blasts and your Saturday night boardwalks and your 2-bit library and your crooked councilmen, your pansy artists, and you can take all these, and your weekly newspaper and your famous tornadoes and your filthy floods and all your yowling cats and your subscription to life, and shove them, baby. Shove them. I can handle a pick and axe again, I think. And I can pick up $25 for a 4-rounder, maybe. Sure, I'm 38, but a little dye can pinch the gray out of my hair, and I can still write a poem. Sometimes. Don't forget that. And even if they don't pay off, it's better than waiting for death and oil, shooting wild turkey, and waiting for the world to begin. All right, bum, she said. Get out. Huh? What? I said. Get out. You've thrown your last tantrum. I'm tired of your damn tantrums. You're always acting like a character in an O'Neill play. But I'm different, baby. I can't help it. You're different, all right. God, how different. Don't slam the door when you leave. But, baby, I love your money. And then we can move to Mary Oliver or Louise Gluck. That sounds much more wholesome and appealing once we get through Bukowski. I think we're 7 poems in. I think there's 84 poems, which I guess would mean if we do this daily, which it's like sort of daily, could be like 3 months, 4 or 5 months of Bukowski. Yeah, it's fun. Depending on how consistent we are with it. I don't like to do more than 1 per stream, but, and then my birthday. Yeah, exactly. It'll be my birthday, and then people will buy me books, and I'll say only buy me books of poetry that are used or already used by the person, given, regifted, or like, and then I'll have things to read on stream. It's the endless cycle, you know? So yeah, this is the day I kicked a bankroll out the window, and I wrote Nico, that Bukowski feels, the more I read him, like this caricature of the starving artist. And I've said that before, but like he definitely in the other poems like exhibited that. In this, he feels like he is just playing a part, playing a role. And it's so funny. And he knows it because it's in the poem. Like, it's so good. And he just has this persona of being like the tortured artist, and poor and idealistic and hates capitalism, and it's great. This is his mask, or was his mask. Yeah. Perfect for doomed poetry. Yeah, he is a doomed poet, for sure, I must say. And it's funny because so I think this is one of his more honest poems that we've read. I talked about the last couple, Borodin and Hugo Wolf or whatever, the two poems about historical figures. Can this focus? Wow. Okay. And I just felt like they were very dishonest and they were turning these artists into people they weren't for his like purpose of sounding like a doomed poet. And this one now turns the knife toward him, toward himself, if you will. And in that sense, it is so good. Because it's like, yeah, I'm aware that I'm playing, that my life is a character in a play. And I'm this obnoxious poet who can't stop talking about, you know, art and being away with the ways of capitalism. I don't know. He's really like, you know, it's funny because I see some of myself in this poem, you know? Some of the, I hate you because you're rich. You can take all this and leave. I don't want your rich energy in my life. I don't want your, like, rich people artists and your, like, nonsense small talk, right? I want poetry and love and alcohol and working hard and pretending I'm younger. Not that one. And seeing this life as better, which we've talked about as other poems, but saying that her life is death and oil. My life as a poet is greatly superior to your actual comfortable life as a trust fund baby, because at least I can sometimes write a poem that's good, right? And sometimes I feel like that a little bit sometimes, which like isn't good, you know? Like I can relate to Bukowski here, and I can relate to like the rants about capitalism and people not liking that and saying enough of your tantrums and sometimes acting like a main character and all that. So there's that. Stylish, fail. How are you? I would also love to hear about Nico's packed week. I know there's a lot of poetry events and things. I don't know how much of them I'm actually going to. Because yes, ma'am. Jeez. That is the proper way to address me in my chat, which is good. So, good girl. Tonight you're going to see someone's art for their birthday. Tomorrow is Poetry Tuesday at a mall. Is that the thing with with Ken. Wait, a what at Taverna? A talent showcase? Is it something other than the normal open mic? Can I go? Or is it on the roof? Oh, is that on the roof? It's on the roof. Okay. Well, if they're having the open mic, I'll be downstairs for that. So, I'll be around, you know. Nah, you're good. You're good. Thursday, you're resting. Oh, Nico. Last Friday. Was that the last Friday? Was that the open mic thing at the farm? Yeah. Did you go? How was it, if you went? Friday you're going to the center to hear spoken word. I might go to that. Center is decently close to my abode. I mean, it's not. It's by the Arts District. It's not close to my abode. But I might go. You did not go. Okay. Fair enough. I was sick. Went to dinner. Nice. Prepare for his birthday. That's very awesome. Honestly, I'm not sure I have that much more to say about this poem. Other than that I really like it. Like, I try. Maybe see you at Friday game at night. Okay, yeah. I try to criticize the poems that I read or find things that I think could be improved. Or things that could be cut, or things that feel like they don't need to be there. And you're right, part of poetry is like having every word be operative. And some might say, oh, you don't need all this, right? Like, this all says, I hate you're rich. I hate that you're rich. But this is also, like I said, this torrent. This idea of screaming all the things at this person that you don't like about them because they're a rich, stuck-up jerk, right? And then propping oneself up, and then getting kicked out, and then being sad, and then leaving. It's like a 5-act play, you know? And it's really funny. I mean, this poem's hilarious. I'm different, baby. I can't help it. Like, caricature, like I said. He is just so blatantly, like, playing into this role of being this artist who can't help it, and that's how I am, and you have to accept me, and I just want your money. And I'm better than you. I don't know. I like this poem a lot, and maybe it's because I haven't been reading much or haven't been on the analysis grind, but I feel like I don't have that much more to say about it. Like, a lot of his poems, right, are definitely shorter than this. This one is a 2-pager, a twofer. And and I write a lot on these 1-page poems because they're packed with more stuff. But this one feels like a lot of words, and a lot of words that are needed to say each of these ideas, but kind of spread out across 2 pages. And the theme, the idea is fairly simple, much less veiled than something like As the Sparrow, which, right, we spent a couple hours, hour and a half, on this poem because of how sort of confusing it was, right? This one's like straightforward and just like a pleasure to read. And I think that I'm quite fine with a poem being that, if that's what the poem is, you know? There's another page! Y'all. I didn't know there were 3-page poems in this book. This is the first one. Hold on then. Guys, this is like Christmas came early. It's like we thought we were done. All the gifts were given. And then Bukowski just dropped another page on us. I'm so happy. Surprise, 3rd page. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Oh god. Okay, this looks great. I guess paper clips will probably go because we'll be switching back and forth more. Okay. So. But, baby, I love your money. Page turn. You never once said you loved me. What do you want? A liar or a lover? You're neither. Out, bum, out. But baby, go back to O'Neill. I went to the door, softly closed it, and walked away, thinking all they want is a wooden Indian to say yes and no, and stand over the fire and not raise too much hell. But you're getting to be an old man, kiddo. Next time, play it closer to the vest. This is such a good poem. Okay, now I have to read the whole thing again. We're doing like a lot of reading and not a lot of analysis because I just enjoy this poem so much. I'm really struggling to focus on the camera. Okay. The day I kicked a bankroll out the window. And, I said, as we try to focus the camera. And I said, you can take your rich aunts and uncles and grandfathers and fathers and all their lousy oil and their 7 lakes and their wild turkeys and buffalo and the whole state of Texas, meaning your crow blasts and your Saturday night boardwalks and your 2-bit library and your crooked councilmen and your pantsy artists. You can take all these. And your weekly newspaper, and your famous tornadoes, and your filthy floods, and your yowling cats, and your subscription to life. And shove them, baby. Shove them. I can handle a pick and axe again, I think. And I can pick up $25 for a 4-rounder. Maybe. Sure, I'm 38, but a little dye could pinch the gray out of my hair. And I can still write a poem. Sometimes. Don't forget that. And even if they don't pay off, it's better than waiting for death and oil and shooting wild turkey and waiting for the world to begin. All right, bum, she said. Get out. What? I said. Get out. You've thrown your last tantrum. I'm tired of your damn tantrums. You're always acting like a character in an O'Neill play. But I'm different, baby. I can help it. I can't help it. You're different, all right. God, how different. Don't slam the door when you leave. But baby, I love your money. Never once. You never once said you loved me. What do you want? A liar or a lover? You're neither. Out. Bum, out. But baby, go back to O'Neill. I went to the door, softly closed it, and walked away, thinking all they want is a wooden Indian to say yes and no to, and stand over the fire and not raise too much hell. But you're getting to be an old man, kiddo. Next time, play it closer to the vest. Okay. This is great. I think this helps a lot, actually. Now that I realize that this page is here, it kind of wraps up some of these ideas about, like, age and being too old that were mentioned on the first page, and just like these ideas of again looking at them and their life, right? The life of people who are not artists, who just want to live their little, like, trust fund, baby, easy life, money, no thoughts, head empty, right? And then he, as a poet, is someone who's, like, different, not accepted in that, and has to, like, keep those ideas closer to the vest. Stylish fail, fixed some clothes today. Feels good to learn a new skill. That's awesome. That's really cool. I want to learn how to do that stuff. Anything with needle and thread, I'm currently incapable of, so big respect there. And then you had a 2-hour commute to work this morning on the Oh, you work on the railway? 2-hour commute this morning, work on the railway. Regardless, that's just cool that Europe has trains. Because we don't. My commute everywhere is on a bicycle. Which is better than in some places in this country, but Las Vegas is a really awful place to bike, so I don't really think I have it better than many people. I like this dialogue. One, because it's slightly unclear, and that's good. I think you can interpret it in a couple ways. But, like, when this was the last line, I saw it very much as Bukowski, sort of sarcastically, in a way. You wish you were a trust fund, maybe making shitty poetry. Yeah. There was upkeep on the railway, so buses instead of trains. I work on... I see. Gotcha. You just make shitty poetry. Yeah, that's how it'd be. Your poetry's not shitty though, Nico. We spent like half an hour with one of your poems on stream. I spent too long enjoying that poem for you to call it shitty. So lighten up a bit. Anyway, so if this was the end, I would see it as Bukowski. Maybe just make poetry. Sort of being like, but baby, I love your money. This sort of like sarcastic remark, parting remark. But if you continue, you could see that probably as her, maybe no money. Yeah. So now I see this in two ways. This is probably still her. You never once loved me. And then he says, what do you want? A lover or a liar? So if we say like, I don't know. Wait, it's the wrong page. It's like, this is obviously like the girl. And then part of me likes to imagine that this is Bukowski or Charles or whatever. Charles Bukowski responding to girl and saying like it's already over at this point, right? She's kicking him out. So he's like sort of poking fun at that idea of love, saying, I love your money. That's the only reason I was here, right? Which is honestly maybe really interesting, because then you have this very classic like Bukowski hypocrisy of loving her money and then hating the fact that she has money, and it hates that she's someone who is like wealthy and trust fund baby and whatever. Which is like, you'd be such a good eccentric nobleman, but alas. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the life, you know? Go back to the feudal ages, be a noble person, be eccentric, and like collect various curios, gloss over the fact historically that you're like totally, you know, have all these serfs that struggle under you and make a pittance. It'd be great. Anyway, so, but baby, I love your money. This could also be girl again, in which case she's like mocking him. Like, I'd like to imagine her in like his voice, you know, he's like, I'm different, baby. I can't help it. You're different, all right. God, how different. Don't slam the door when you leave. But, baby, I love your money. And then, like, her again being like, you never once said you loved me. Right? As to imply that all he ever was here for was the money. Right? And then, regardless, I think it works really well if you do that switch or not. Then you have Charles again, our boy. What do you want, a liar or a lover? And it just seems like such a good line, because one, he's like walking right into it, the you're neither from her at the end, calling him a bum, and it's like what he's saying, if he said I love you, then he'd be lying. But instead, I'm a lover, but he also doesn't love her. Which is again this Bukowski contradiction. And maybe in a sense he is saying that either way, he just doesn't actually love her. Because he's Bukowski, and he doesn't love people. He loves their money and their body and their generally all of the qualities that you're not really supposed to love societally. You're neither. Out, bum. Out. But baby, go back to O'Neill. Do either of you know, or does anyone in chat, I guess, know which playwright O'Neill is being referenced? I mean, I presume some kind of playwright who is, you know, comedy or like that kind of play where he's this character, this archetypal, like I said, caricature of a tragic poet, playing this role, right? Eugene O'Neill? Okay, and who is he? And then we'll get to the last stanza, which I think is probably one of the most important. Let's see. I'm going to pull up the old Tusk of Nyla. Hello. How are you? Okay. There it is. You've got a whole lot of listening to my lovely voice. Thank you, Dusk. Theoretically, if you keep coming back, it'll only get better because I'm still coming off of the being sick. Okay. His poetically titled plays were one of the first introduced to the U.S. The drama techniques of realism, early associated with Chekhov, Ibsen, and Strindberg. The tragedy, Long Day's Journey into Night, often included on lists of the finest U.S. plays, alongside Tennessee Williams' A Stretcher Named Desire, Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman. Okay, so we're talking like a real playwright, which makes sense. But yeah, tragic, probably romantic stuff, right? And Bukowski being this sort of destitute artist, hopeless romantic, sort of fiending after people and pleasure. The sort of hedonistic poet, maybe. It just makes sense. I mean, it's that. I have to say, props to this woman. And I mean, the whole thing could be fabricated, this whole interaction, but I like to imagine that this actually happened. That is an insult right there. O'Neill's plays were one of the first to include speeches in American English vernacular, involve characters on the fringes of society, the struggles to maintain their hopes and aspirations would ultimately slide into disillusion and despair. Of his very few comedies, only one is well known. Wilderness. Tragedy and pessimism. Okay, so this is such a good insult. And the way he's like self-aware, if he did fabricate this story, or that means also that she was actually kind of in tune with art and whatever. Yes, thank you, random person on Wikipedia, and thank you, Nico, for finding that. So I would love to that's such a good insult, is what I'm trying to say. Making reference to media and then saying like you're like one of, like, if I insulted someone by saying that they are like a character in a Bukowski poem, that's the same vibe, and I think that's a great way to do it. Anyway, I went to the door, softly closed it, and walked away, thinking all they want is a wooden Indian. I mean, okay, Indian, whatever, product of the times, to say yes and no to, or to say yes and no, and stand over the fire and not raise too much hell. But you're getting to be an old man, kiddo. Okay. That line is excellent. Next time, play it closer to the west. So, he calls himself kiddo. He is childish and sees that, but also this idea of, like, not growing up and becoming, like, part of society. Which, Peter Pan syndrome, I do not know what that is. Obviously something to do with like growing up, but I like to say that, like myself, that I never want to grow up. I always want to be a child, even in my age. And to continue, Peter Pan syndrome, psychology term used to describe an adult who's immature, refers to never growing adults who have reached adult age but cannot face their adult sensations or responsibilities. It's gonna be me. I'm gonna have that. Ideally, I want to be trapped in childhood in the sort of frolicking and free and happy realm of things, whereas Bukowski is trapped in like the I'm a horny 16-year-old boy like section of things, and I'm moody and edgy. So hopefully, like I agree with this line. I feel this line. This idea of messing things up, because this childish artist who just wants to like play around with words and my feelings. That's what poetry is to me, like playing around. with feelings. And next time, play it closer to the vest. So good. Fucking around and finding out. Yes. Exactly. That's how I live my life. And so I have to wonder, like, a lot of times I think that art is a sort of fountain of youth in a way. Let me write this down a little bit. That art is sort of a fountain of youth. And that to make art, it requires some amount of not growing up and being a child. Because to me, art is this, like, exploration. It's a very curious thing. It is not... I don't know how to describe this right. Because I can write poems about very mature things. I wrote a very mature poem. I don't mean sexual or explicit. I just wrote a poem this morning about, like, having honest and caring relationships and that kind of thing. And I still feel like in writing that poem, it was this childish endeavor. So I wonder, partly, if art, like, is an inherently youthful thing to do, or if you are able to sort of grow up, mature, settle. For the things, for society, and being the person who says just yes and no and doesn't raise hell. Like, if you become this person who doesn't raise hell, who does say yes and no, who is a, quote, wooden Indian, who has grown up, can you make art? I mean, you can. Anyone can make art. Anyone can put a pen to paper and write something. Right? But maybe that doesn't feel the same. And maybe that's going back again to this very recurring idea now of the lifestyles of being an artist and being a member of society. We talked about it a lot in Layover. This idea of, right, working is not art. And you can, I think, replace that with growing up. What is the term for someone who has felt old, grumpy, and creaky straight from the womb? And I know people talk about old souls, where, like, you'll have a kid who's, like, feels kind of old, and you'll call them an old soul. That's the only one that comes to mind immediately. But perhaps you're looking for something else. Regardless, I think that is enough of this poem. It just sort of feels like another take on what we've been reading, another variation on a theme. at least of the sort of sad poems, sad, angry poems. Destroying Beauty felt different last week, but like most of these last few have been very consistent in what I feel like they're saying. But this felt fresh in its sort of style and conversational writing.